an 80s action like one-liners.
Sure.
Except all my one-liners were titles of Barry Manilow songs. Hey everybody, welcome to Every Edition, the Tabletop RPG Talk Show. I'm John.
I'm Jesse.
And today we're going to loot the body and take a look at Rebel Scum from 9th Level Games.
In our random encounter, we're going to be talking about John's sort of top 5 takeaways from Origins in 2022.
It was an amazing time. And of course, we'll have our morale check where we'll take a look at the tabletop role-playing game industry and news of the day. But first, Jesse, this is our 20th regular
20th
episode.
That's a lot. I can't believe it's been 20 episodes.
It's we're doing great.
Yeah.
I've heard that most podcasts are lucky to get out 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're 20 plus, actually, there's been some episodes that you've never seen because they've never come out.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not salvageable.
We had 3 tries at our first interview with Brian from Neon Lords.
Yeah. Plenty of outtakes. We've had some special episodes
as
well.
All that kind of stuff. So, but this is our 20th regular episode, and I'm hoping for 20 more to come.
Yeah,
so.
We've got more down the pipeline. Hopefully, more interviews and awesome things to share.
Excellent.
All right, John. So, what's new?
Well, it was just Father's Day not that long ago, and played a lot of Shredder's Revenge on Father's Day, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles new beat-em-up game.
Yeah.
Just awesome, just fantastic. It's game of the year.
Do you have like one of those mini like arcade units?
No, it just downloaded it on the Switch.
Sure.
A lot of fun. Still we haven't beat the game yet. We played a lot on Father's Day, but haven't completely finished the game yet. But we will, and it's just awesome. I've also been playing a lot of Pac-Man. They just Switch just came out with Pac-Man Museum.
Sure.
So as a retro gamer, I've got plenty of good video game goodness happening right now. I love Pac-Man 256. I think it's made by the people who made Crossy Roads, and it's like an endless Pac-Man game that you can play co-op. You can play.
Oh, okay.
That's another. The kids and I will play like 3-player, all at the same time. It's awesome. So Jesse, what's new?
Well, I have been spending a little bit more time personally on my own channels, devoting time to learning more about YouTube and how YouTube works and how editing works. I come from a sort of live streaming background, so the past 20 plus episodes that we've done have really been my like jump in the deep end to try to make things work and figure everything out. It's really fun. I really enjoy sort of graphic design and maybe seeing how far we can sort of cheese it. Like we have our YouTube intro is like, it's like kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
Right. But there's like more things that we could do. And I don't know exactly how far I want to cheese it. So I've been trying that kind of stuff on my own channels. And it's been super fun. It's a little weird to try to think like, how would the YouTube algorithm think of this particular thing?
Oh.
And how that goes into how your channel grows or how much reach you get or how much engagement you get. A lot of maybe boring stuff to some people I've been devouring.
No, the more we've been getting into this, the more I'm interested in that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, we started off just kind of turning the camera on and talking about tabletop role-playing games. But, you do kind of want to continue to grow and take it to the next level. And so learning about that stuff seems to make sense. Where can, Jesse, where can people find your other channels and things?
Well, so my main YouTube is youtube.com/c/vexing. That's how you find people on YouTube.
Okay.
Just VEXING. But I'm also on Twitch at Vexing Live. I do mainly live streams. I've been sort of, as we're experimenting with the podcast, I've been trying to glean as much info as I can from like Twitter and from TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I've talked about the potential of RPG and DMs in general having like a really good reach on TikTok from a market that's not really been capitalized on. There's a whole I could spend a whole random encounter talking about all this stuff. We're still in the intro, but that's okay. But yeah, I can leave a link to all my socials down below, or maybe even on our website or something like that.
Great.
All right, it's time for a morale check. Our morale checks are where we take a look at RPG news and topics of the week. I've got some interesting stuff this week, so you definitely are a bit more in tune with what comes around with Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. But I found this really awesome Kickstarter that really hit home for me.
Cool.
It's called Herbarium, a botanical 5th edition supplement. So I am someone who's always trying to please everybody at the table. And there has been many times when playing 5th edition, especially in homebrew situations, where someone comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, you know, I want to be like a jewel crafter. Mm-hmm. I want, you know, yeah, going into dungeons is fun and slaying monsters is cool too, but I want to spend my time maybe in between sessions leveling up a profession or being someone who owns their own like blacksmithing shop, or a herbologist shop." So this Kickstarter is just about to end. We've got only about a week, but it has made 10 times the amount of money that they have asked for originally. The book's going to be like between 100 and 120 pages, somewhere around there, with all the goals met.
All right.
It's got a lot of herbalism type profession things, as well as like adventure hooks, and there's even a player class that you can do that's focused around plants. They introduce a lot of real-world plants to D&D and sort of give them like a fantasy spin, like what they would do in a 5th edition setting, as well as some spells and some plant-themed monsters and things like that.
Cool.
It's definitely like a DM's type of book more than it is a player's type of book. Mm-hmm. But for someone like me who's always trying to bring in a little bit more like role-playing game, like video game aspects, like profession things for people to do in between sessions, this is like a step towards that. It's not exactly that, but it's a step towards that, and I backed it right away. I'm super excited about it.
Very cool. What's it called again?
Herbarium. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Herbarium, a botanical 5th edition supplement.
Cool.
It's on Kickstarter right now.
That sounds fantastic. Well, in other news, Return to Dark Tower, the board game from Restoration Games, they're going to be coming out with a second printing of the board game because the first one sold out.
Yeah.
And so the second printing, I think, is going to be on Kickstarter along with a brand new expansion that they're going to be kickstarting right along with the second printing. So if you missed out on the first release of Return to Dark Tower, the board game, there's going to be this second printing. And this is coming right off of the successful Kickstarter from Ninth Level Games with the Return to Dark Tower role-playing game. And I do understand that there might be a little bit of synergy between the two in terms of being able to use some of the board game components with the role-playing game.
Sure.
So I'm going to explore that a little bit further and see what truth there is to that.
Yeah.
But I missed the first Kickstarter, so I'm going to take a look at this second one. So Return to Dark Tower, the board game, second printing from Restoration Games.
It is July, and that means every year on World Anvil, something that I've talked about in basically every episode now, a world building website. Every summer they do something called Summer Camp. And Summer Camp is a world building exercise, much like NaNoWriMo. If you're a writer, you're familiar with the writing month of November being like a marathon. This is basically a marathon, but for world builders.
Cool.
So every day for the month of July, there's a prompt that is a setting agnostic prompt. So it doesn't say something like, what do the elves in your world do? They say, what do the people in your world do? You know, they sort of get the juices flowing, you know? Mm-hmm. You write a prompt that's 300 words or more in some sort of article, like maybe if they ask about a settlement, you make a settlement related to that. And you're entered into a bunch of prizes, and there's a whole community thing happening on Discord and on their website. It's a really awesome sort of community time. They're even this year doing community meetups where they're sort of flying all around the world to meet everybody. It's super fun, and it's like it's when I get the most amount of world building done for my homebrew world. Super fun.
Excellent.
And I complete it every year because it's super fun to do.
So month of July, calling all world builders,
Yes.
check out World Anvil.
Yes.
Cool. Maybe even that might be my entry into World Anvil.
It's super fun and super easy, and like the graphic design looks really easy and nice. The buttons are fun to press.
Cool. Very good. Good summer activity. And finally, Dark of Hot Springs Island is coming out with the third printing, a new cover for this hardcover book that is a adventure hex crawl, sort of a sandbox, open world type of adventure.
Nice.
The original printing of the book, the first printing and second printing, had this sort of leathery black cover, really beautiful. But unfortunately, because of inflation and costs rising, it's too expensive, right? So they have a new cover that, rather than that black leather look, it's going to be a regular like painting,
Nice.
of a demon. It looks like on the cover, but it looks great. Third printing, and they're also kickstarting that along with a new book, Dark of Marlowe's Mire, which is another role-playing hex crawl in this different island system.
Okay.
Lots of different islands put out by Swordfish Islands,
Okay.
LLC. So that's the company that's putting out these incredibly wonderful, beautiful, award-winning adventures. Actually, the Dark of Hot Springs Island won a gold award at Gen Con for Best RPG Adventure. Back in 2018, and so this has been reviewed on a lot of other channels, and a pretty popular OSR hex crawl adventure. So check out the third printing of Dark of Hot Springs Island and the new Dark of Marlowe's Mire, currently on Kickstarter from Swordfish Island LLC.
Are you like me and always having a terrible time of trying to get people together during the summer, or are your summer plans a little bit more hopeful than mine? I don't know. For some reason during the summertime, it always feels like, people are out on trips. Maybe they're, they've got their vacations planned for the summertime. At least here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's summertime. Yeah. So people want to get outside. People don't want to be inside gaming, unlike me. Let us know in the comments if you have any summer plans. Maybe you're going to Gen Con, or maybe you just got back from Origins. Yeah. Let us know down in the comments, or you can always drop us a line over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com, and you can check out all of our socials at everyeditionrpg.com.
It does seem like the old enemy of tabletop role-playing games, scheduling, rears its ugly head in the summer with everybody having vacation plans and all that sort of stuff. It is harder to get that regular game going. Thankfully, there are conventions, though, to kind of break that up maybe a little bit. But, yeah, we're having a harder time getting our regular games.
And as soon as summer's over, everything goes back to normal.
Yep. So summer's great, but so is routine and regular, regular games. Okay, it's time for a random encounter. Today's random encounter, we're going to be talking about Origins 2022, thinking about top 5 takeaways of going to a convention in 2022. It's an interesting time to be going to a convention with the goings-ons in the world, right? So
real life.
Real life. But I learned a lot from this convention, and I wanted to share, my top 5 takeaways from Origins and kind of review the convention. Spoiler: it was great. Love Origins. Like, it's fantastic. I hadn't been to Origins since the 90s.
Yeah. I've never been. I didn't, unfortunately, get a chance to go.
It's terrific. And here's what everybody told me about Origins in comparison to other conventions. They said, Origins is great, and other conventions might be bigger, but they're also harder. Right? And so something to keep in mind. You can pretty much do just about everything at Origins that you can do at other conventions. But if it's a bigger convention, then you're going to have trouble signing up for games. You're going to have trouble getting hotels, right? All those different things are going to be more challenging. Whereas my experience with Origins and the experience of people that I talk to at Origins, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to register for a game, pretty easy to get a hotel room. There are certain aspects of it that just sort of flow nicely.
Nice. So, John, what are your top 5 takeaways?
All right. So, so my first takeaway from Origins 2022 is that this was 9th level games convention. This was that they won the convention, as far as I'm concerned. They had a centrally located, beautiful booth right in the middle of the exhibit hall. And they put on some of the best games of the entire convention and consistently put on great games. They had a room that was at the end of a hallway, sort of all to themselves, that just had 9th level games happening in it. And they capped off the weekend with a terrific mazes event that was all done in the whole room was lit by black lights.
Yeah, I was super jealous. I saw the pictures and I was like, oh man, that looks really cool.
It was pretty amazing. And the timing was right for them because they literally just got the books for mazes, the hardcover books, just arrived right before they left for the convention.
Oh, nice.
So they had them at the convention. And so I got to flip through it. I'm waiting for mine to come from Kickstarter, which should be any day now.
Yeah.
But I got a chance to flip through it, and it's beautiful. Got a chance to talk to Chris O'Neill, great guy. Just had a lot of fun, and I really think if you 9th level games seems like they are just about to explode.
Sure.
Like they're at really a turning point, it seems like, in terms of their popularity, and they certainly have great games to back it up.
Nice.
So I'm declaring Origins 2022 9th level games' convention. They won the convention.
So how was your experience with playing with random GMs and DMs that you had never played with before?
Yeah. So it was pretty good, and the thing was, it really did vary. So I would say I played with some absolutely amazing game masters, and I also played with some pretty terrible ones. So it really ran the whole.
I'm sorry if you're watching.
No, it's okay. I mean, it really ran the whole gambit, and I'm just being honest too. Like, there's no way. I played 4 games a day for 5 days.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I was packed. I didn't really have much time to eat, right? And I came home exhausted, right? I was gaming. And so if you're going to be hitting the throttle that hard, there's no way you're going to have a great game every session.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And same goes for them too. They're running, the same number, if not more games, and they're on their feet talking the whole time. Maybe everybody's not going to be at the top of their game.
Oh, definitely. Good point. And so ran the whole gambit. And I would say, a great piece of advice that I have for everybody out there, maybe this is obvious, but if you have a great game, write down the game master's name.
Yep. Write
down the person's name. Keep track of who you played with in terms of somebody running a game, because you're going to want that information next year if you're going to be coming back to the convention.
Or at a local convention. Gen Con or whatever.
Yeah, you might even want that information for that same weekend, right? Yeah. So if you play a game on Wednesday or Thursday, it's really great. And that Game Master has an opening, coming up on the weekend, same convention, join their game. Like, it really is important, the person that's running the game. And by and large, most of the game masters that I encountered over the weekend were incredible.
Nice.
They were well prepared. They had, minis and tchotchkes and niceties,
things for you to do.
make everything great. And a lot of them had little treats and
nice.
All kind of goodies and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. But keep track of the GMs that you like for future cons, and maybe even for the same weekend.
What was your most memorable or favorite game that you played?
So I think the best game that I played was I played a game of Dread.
Okay.
And Dread is this very heavy emphasis on role-playing and cooperative storytelling game that uses a Jenga tower to resolve actions.
Yep.
So anytime you do something where there's a risk of failure or a risk of injury or death, you pull a Jenga piece. And the game master can have you, if you're attempting something really challenging or difficult, or it's at a really stressful time in the game, maybe they'll say, actually, for this, you need to pull 2 or you need to pull 3, right? It'll have you pull multiple. So if the Jenga tower falls over at any point and you're responsible for it falling over, your character dies. And if it's not like an opportune moment for your character to die, like you were reading a book or something like that and looking for clues, it's not like the book suddenly smacks in your head.
A mimic book.
Right. But it does mean that your character then is about to die.
Yeah.
And you know that, and you cooperatively story play and role play into that. Working with the game master and everybody else.
Using a Jenga tower, like something that you might already have around your house, to play the game in place of something like stress dice from like Alien or whatever. The longer you play, the more difficult the game is going to become before something bad happens. So, and you can see it happening. You can watch the tower be built, and you can feel that dread sort of building.
Yeah.
And as a GM of that game, I'm sure the GM was having a blast.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it was great. And the thing I thought was interesting about the sort of the way it was laid out in the room was the Jenga tower was obviously in the middle of the table, but then everybody backed away from the table and didn't go anywhere near it.
Didn't want to bump it.
Didn't want to accidentally bump the table, right? And so because it was so heavy on role play then, and because you weren't really constrained to the table in the same way you normally were, it really almost started to veer into LARPing territory. Sure. Very heavy on the role play, and kind of made sense to move around the room. Sometimes you obviously had to stand up and move to the table when you wanted to make that draw from the Jenga tower. So it really felt like it was like almost quasi LARPing.
That's
like,
awesome.
Like it wasn't totally there because it wasn't costuming, and it wasn't your character actually moving around the room in a physical space. But it was almost there. Like it kind of married some of the best of tabletop role playing and some elements of LARPing.
Sure.
Really loved Dread. It was my first time playing it. I'd heard about it a lot.
It's been around for quite a while.
It's been around for a while. Yeah, it came out in the mid 2000s, I believe.
So.
But definitely, if you're at a convention and you get a chance to play Dread, don't miss it.
So at the top of the episode, I had talked about my sort of foray into our episodes and editing and my own personal sort of YouTube exclusive stuff, and how I'm typically a live stream person, and this recording stuff and editing is really sort of out of my safety zone. But you had quite a different experience at Origins. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I participated in my first live stream game at a convention. It was the first time I ever live streamed a game, but it was also with complete strangers, right? So I think one of the things, it looks like most of the time if you watch a live stream, it's usually people that know each other.
A bunch of friends.
Right, bunch of friends. Or like, improv actors who are, working together in heavy editing and know what's going on. So this was a live stream, so there's no editing, right? And it was with complete strangers. And it was my first time, right? So all of that stuff meant that I was very sort of, quieter than normal, I think. And I definitely I stuck to one note that I kind of thought would be humorous and comical, but also safe for me. So I don't know. It was the game master was fantastic. I should say right off the bat. The game master was absolutely fantastic. So it was for X Crawl.
Okay.
So it was a Dungeon Crawl Classics variant. Excellent game master. Really did a great job of being really animated.
Sure.
And not only for the camera but also for the table. I would definitely play a game with him again. But I don't know if I do a live stream again.
Interesting.
At least not at a convention. I think that might have been one bridge too far for me. Whereas, like, if we did a live stream, I think I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
But doing a live stream where you don't really have the editing powers and then doing it with strangers.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much too many variables.
Too many variables. Too many variables.
Kind of have to like put on a face.
Yeah.
You're hyper aware of the camera.
Yeah.
You don't know how many people are watching.
Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't the game master's fault. I think it was just it was like one bridge too far in terms of things going on. Because there were definitely games where, like, you know, depending on the other players and stuff, I felt more comfortable than other games where I was quieter or more animated, you know, depending on the sort of dynamic at the table.
Sure.
This one, it was kind of hard to come up with what felt like a natural dynamic, just because it was more performative for an audience rather than just each other.
Sure, that makes sense. Were you told beforehand? That you were gonna? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we were told beforehand, which was very nice courtesy, right?
Yeah.
You know, to know ahead of time. So I think there was a person that was signed up for this game that when it was announced, they bailed. Right.
Sure.
They re-released their ticket out into the wild. And to be honest, like I said before, I'd love to play with this game master again. I loved X-Crawl, fantastic game. But I think if I got a notice that it was a live stream game, I think I might bail.
Okay.
In the future, I don't know that I thought, you know, I was excited about it because I'd never done it and I wanted to try it, and I was like, this is going to make Origins memorable, and it did. But I think now that I've had that experience, I don't know that live streaming with strangers is what I would do again.
Sure.
How's that?
And it definitely lends itself better. Like if we were to do potentially a live streamed interview or a live stream episode for like a special anniversary or something.
Yeah.
Like I think, you know, we're comfortable enough with what we've got going on where that might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But when you're in sort of a strange setting with a bunch of strangers, there's only so much that a good GM can do.
Right. Right.
Especially with a new game. There's like I think just too many variables. I don't think I'd be comfortable with that either. I've had some live streaming stuff that's like not my stream stuff come up in the past, and it is definitely weird. There's like a weird kind of pressure put on you, and you don't want to act a certain way in any direction. You kind of just want to be neutral. It's interesting, and I commend the people who want to do live stream regular RPG games with their friends and whatnot. If that's what they like to do, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's interested, I'll put a link to the game of X-Crawl that I played in the comments section, so you can check it out and see what you think. I played a character named Manilow.
Okay.
And I basically did like an 80s action, like one-liners.
Sure.
Except all my one-liners were titles of Barry Manilow songs.
Okay.
And so I was amusing myself.
Yeah.
It was also, I knew it was very safe. Like, and basically,
there's not going to be anything crazy.
Yeah, and I spent most of my time at the table thinking like, okay, how can I turn this title of a Barry Manilow song into something funny? So count, if you care to, count how many times I reference a Barry Manilow song. It is in the high teens, I do believe.
That's fantastic.
And that's not counting then some of the other people got into the action too. So it was, like I said, it was fun. I don't know that I would choose to do that again at a convention, but I'm glad I've experienced that.
Yeah. So you mentioned one person potentially having been maybe discouraged or live streaming wasn't necessarily their thing. Did you have a lot of people drop from games or not show up or?
No, it most of the games had about 6 spots.
Okay.
And I was at a full table almost every game.
Nice.
I would say though, just in terms of advice, like don't be afraid to change your plans while at the convention. Just do it the right way.
Sure,
right.
Sure.
So, if you do change your plans, if you're not planning on going to a game, delete your ticket. That way it releases back out into the wild and so that other people can pick it up.
Yeah, don't just not show up.
Don't just not show up. Right. And the other thing too is don't be afraid to change your plans though. Like don't feel like you're locked into something. If you try a game and you've signed up for 2 sessions for some reason and you didn't like it, just release your ticket for the second one and pick up something else. Don't be afraid to do that.
Or give yourself some time to go eat or something.
Yeah, or give yourself some, that's right. That's right. And we had one late, on the first night, we went until 1 a.m., which was the latest you could play.
Okay.
And we even added, at the very end of the day, we did a Pathfinder 2E organized play.
Sure.
Thing. And we had signed up for, that was the latest game that you could sign up for every night. So we signed up for a couple of those. It was okay.
Sure.
But it actually realized it wasn't worth losing sleep, right? So we played one game of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, experienced it, had a good time, and learned the differences between the editions, and were able to kind of talk about it and stuff. But then we did cancel the second time we'd signed up to do that too, because we were like, we've done it. I don't know that we're going to get anything new from it except lose sleep.
Yeah.
So let's release that back out into the wild.
And I'm sure there was probably people looking for that kind of spot.
Yes.
And that gave them a chance to play it as well.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. As long as you do it the right way. I did experience one time where a group sort of tried to muscle their way into a game.
Okay.
Which was not very cool. So, it was like a group of, 4 or 5 people, and only a couple of them had tickets. And they said, well, if you don't let all of us play, we're all going to walk, and then there'll be nobody playing this game. It was, so what ended up happening was I walked.
Sure. Yeah.
I said, okay, see ya, bye. Because I could tell that I didn't want to play with those guys.
Yeah. If you managed, or if the GM managed to get them to sit down at the table, that game probably wouldn't have been fun anyway.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Don't be afraid to change plans, even if it's in the moment. You sit down at a table and you're uncomfortable for whatever reason, get out of there.
Yeah.
Right. So I was uncomfortable with what was going on, and I said, I don't know if I want to play with this group of people if they're already kind of throwing ultimatums.
Yeah.
And we haven't even started playing. That doesn't sound like people I want to share a table with. So I just said, see ya, bye. I got up and I walked to a neighboring table, and they were playing a game of Alien RPG.
Ooh, nice.
And I said, hey, do you have a spot for one more? And they said, absolutely. Handed me a character sheet and had a great time. Had one of the best games of the con.
Nice.
So don't be afraid to change plans. Just make sure you do it the right way, and don't be a jerk.
Yeah,
right?
just don't be a jerk.
Don't muscle your way into stuff and or try to.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was.
Any final thoughts, or sort of things that you would tell yourself next time?
So the best advice I could give anybody for a convention like Origins is bring a water bottle. Right?
I guess water bottles there are going to be super expensive.
Yeah. So, but if you pack a reusable water bottle, they had a lot of filling stations in the convention center, water fountains and filling stations and stuff. But the hotel, which also had most of the role-playing games for Origins, they would have fresh water, refill stations brought in throughout the day, and they were the big things of ice, and it was great. So it was easy to stay hydrated and not spend money on water just by having a water bottle. So make sure you bring a water bottle to your cons. There's gonna be filling station. Otherwise, you're gonna be paying $2 every time you want to, get something to drink.
Maybe more.
And I'd rather spend that money on books.
So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go to Origins, but I'm hoping to get to Gen Con at the end of the summer. John, you got a chance to go to Origins.
It was one of the only things about Origins that stunk, Jesse, was not having you there.
I wish I could have gotten a chance to play a bunch of the 9th level games. We talk about mazes a lot. We talk about a bunch of their games, and not being able to sit at a table with a 9th level DM and actually talk to everybody, and that black light party seemed really fun. It was definitely okay, next year I've already got it booked on my calendar, I'm ready to go. But I'm hoping to get to Gen Con this year. I'm curious to know if anybody watching or listening has any experiences with going to conventions like this, where they're RPG focused, and what your experiences might be. So let us know in the comments, or send us an email over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. And of course, you could always find our Twitter and Facebook and all the other social links that we have over at everyeditionrpg.com.
All right, it's time to loot the body. Today's Loot the Body, we're taking a look at Rebel Scum.
Rebel Scum.
The anti-fascist space opera RPG from Ninth Level Games. I love this game. This was, without a doubt, like I said during our random encounter section, I thought this was Ninth Level Games convention. And one of the games that I got a chance to try for the very first time was Rebel Scum. And it did not disappoint. I have played Mazes a number of times using the Polymorph system. That's their fantasy game. But I never played any of the newer variants of the Polymorph system. And so this was my first sort of branching out from Mazes to an additional Ninth Level Games Polymorph system game, and Rebel Scum. It is what it looks like. It is what it sounds like. It is a war in the stars.
Yeah. I don't know if we could say that.
And a lot of
they could say that.
It's a lot of fun, though. It uses so the polymorph system is your character has a role, and then they have a role, meaning that you have your character class, but that character class is articulated via a specific polyhedral die. And so depending on what character class you are either a D4, a D6, a D8, or a D10, and that's the only die you will roll for the entire game. Super rules light, no math required. You are rolling a die and you are looking for a specific number for success. That's it. So it's literally just like visually I'm looking for a symbol. No math at all, which was why the game that we played with Mazes, they were able to do it in blacklight.
Yeah, right? Because you don't really need to see much.
Yeah, and I've said before when we talked about Mazes in a previous episode, it lends itself to ambiance and candles and special lighting and things like that, because you're not looking at your character sheet trying to add
through a book.
Right, or flipping through a book trying to add things up. It really sort of unlocks the role play, but it's still a very consistent system. I think it's not just like do whatever you want. It does have a system for resolving success and failure. And it is a role-playing game, right? It's not just cooperative storytelling.
Yep.
It is a role-playing game. It just happens to be very rules light.
Easy to pick up at a convention.
Easy to pick up at a convention. And they did a great job. All of their games were only 2 hours long.
Nice.
And so Ninth Level Games, whether you were playing Rebel Scum or Mazes or The Very Good Dogs of Chernobyl or Business Wizards, or I'm blank. Oh, The Excellence is the Princess role-playing game. Any of those they were running events for at Origins 2022, and they were 2 hours long.
Nice.
So one of the things I like about the polymorph system is that it does lend itself to a shorter role-playing experience. Right. Most role-playing games you need at least 4 hours. Right.
At least.
Yeah.
There's half an hour to an hour of just, how does this work? Let me go find out. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chaff that you can just immediately cut out.
Yep. And this gives you a satisfying tabletop role-playing experience in a shorter amount of time. It gets right to it. You jump right into the action, and it resolves in a satisfying way. And it'll take you just as long as it will be to play, your average board game or something like that. So I highly recommend Rebel Scum. And actually, I'm hesitating to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I like to be provocative. I think I liked it better than Mazes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It seemed like it was even rules lighter than Mazes. Okay. So Mazes has this like darkness mechanic, and it has a healing mechanic and stuff like that. Rebel Scum has a starship, but all that does is add an additional die that you roll that sort of counts for the ship.
Sure.
But other than that, that's it.
Yeah, you don't really have to deal with magic.
Nope.
So there's nothing like that.
Nope. You've got the Force, but again, it's like not. It's you have those images of Force powers in your head and stuff. So I've played a lot of great games of Mazes, but I played an exceptional game of Rebel Scum, and nice. I think I might like it better, but I'm going to hold off. We're gonna have to take a look at the new Mazes hardcover.
Yes.
Very soon.
Hopefully soon.
As soon as that arrives in the mail from Kickstarter, we'll bring that to a Loot the Body soon.
Sure. So I feel like this has been our 10th, 9th level games episode. But this is our 20th episode officially. Hopefully the future is looking bright.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of awesome stuff in the pipeline to be worked on.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to more. I'm looking forward to playing more games and getting them in front of people.
Yes.
And trying out Mazes and a bunch of the other 9th level game stuff as that stuff comes in, because, this past year has just been just an absolute Kickstarter mayhem of okay, yeah, I'll buy that.
And then delay.
Yeah, and then infinite delays because of the world and how it is right now.
Yep.
But I appreciate everybody for watching us and following all of our socials and all of the stuff that we're doing there. We're trying to bring something new and fresh and interesting to our industry, which is a pretty diverse industry, and I really I enjoy reading all the comments and seeing where all this stuff takes us. So you can check us out at everyeditionrpg.com. That has links to all of our socials, as well as our Patreon and things like that, and links to be able to listen to the podcast wherever you are. But you can always leave a comment or send us an email over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com.
For Every Edition, I'm John.
And I'm Jesse.
Thanks a lot.
That was good.